Very good,
So,
man. Nice to meet you, Martin.
yeah,
Friend of
same here.
Gustavo is my friend too.
Yeah. Okay. We have my daughter joining us also.
Hello,
Excuse.
darling.
Hello.
So I think it's 8:05. I believe I will start a little bit, of this conversation. And so, first of all, I would like to thank you for attending to this call. It was an idea that happened actually when I was there in Accra, in Ghana. And in the opening of the event, I heard all these writers and poets and artists talking about their production with art. And it touched me because they talked about the production of art as something that you do because of your love that you have for art, because of this internal need, this ontological necessity to produce art, but none of them talked about how they do art, how they get the money to do art. Because doing art, hello, Edinam, good morning, my friend.
Hi, can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, my friend. So I have just started, Edinam, and so welcome to Brazil.
Thank you.
And so I was there in the opening of the event, and I was listening to all these artists speaking about their artistic drive and how they produce their arts. And what I noticed is that all of them had different jobs that allowed them to do their job, do their artistic work. And I asked them a question about the importance of the state in fomenting art. And for my big surprise, I realized that they didn't have any kind of law that granted them money, for artists. And after the event, I was talking to my colleagues, my friends here, and what I realized is that not just in Ghana, but also in Nigeria and in South Africa, those laws are inexistent. So I called this event to share with you our experiences with culture incentive laws, to tell you how our culture incentive laws work, and somehow inspire you to think about the development of something like that, not identical laws, because my initial plan was just to send them the laws that we had. I would take the Brazilian laws and share with my friends, and so you find, hello, Pelu, good morning, my friend. Welcome to Brazil. My traveler.
Gustavo, good morning. Good to see you again. Well done.
Oh, so good to not see you. I would like to see you because
You'll
I
see
can
me
see only
soon.
a black screen.
Yeah, I'm
So,
going to put up my video soon.
okay. So as I was telling them, Pelu was there in the first moment of this conversation. This conversation was between Pelu and I and Amara. And I was telling them that as soon as I got to the hotel, I would forward them the Brazilian incentive laws. But later thinking about it, I thought it was very simplistic just to share a bunch of laws with my friends. Because it's not the same thing when you just get a bunch of laws and you try to translate them into your own culture. It doesn't make much sense. It must be thought thoroughly, We need to understand the system of taxes in your own countries and how to perform and how to bring these laws into reality. So we need to discuss how they operate in Brazil, but we need to think how would they operate in your own countries. So later, I thought that maybe it would be better to invite some of Brazilian specialists to talk about the culture incentive laws and how they work. And maybe from listening to these specialists, you would have a better understanding. You know, you would have a better comprehension of the whole process. So that's what we're doing here. And I would like to start this conversation by talking about my own experience with culture incentive laws. I have to share with you some pictures to tell a tale. So this is the beginning of a project when I was a professor at a college called Scenic Production. And these here are my students. And they were producing this play. This play were the, how we would call it, like the undergraduation conclusion project. They need to offer a kind of project, and being scenic production, it should be related to theater, to arts. And this is their TCC. This TCC, trabalho de conclusão de curso, like the work of conclusion of their course. This was transformed into a project and submitted to a culture incentive law. We got the grant. We got around 60,000 reais to do this play. This is the day they defended their project, and this graduation project became a project for culture incentive law, and we were granted. We got the prize, and we executed the play. After many years, this is 10 years ago. After 10 years, this is 2 weeks ago, the project continues. The play is still alive. The play is about one of Mozambique's most famous Mozambican writers called Mia Couto. And it's called The Day Mabata Bata Exploded. And this play was recently performed in Goiânia, my city, and in another city near here called Anápolis. And this is the festival that we presented in Anápolis. And this is so beautiful. And from this play, we created a theater group. And this theater group is alive, performing. And it all started with a culture incentive law. This presentation here was also we got the grant from another culture incentive law called Lei Law Paulo Gustavo. And we were granted 15,000 reais to perform 2 times. And also in the festival that we presented, that was also financed by a culture incentive law, we got a prize, and this is the prize I just received. And this prize also came from a culture incentive law. So to your, hello, Mamle, so good to see you, my friend.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Yeah, I was just telling them a little of my own experience with culture incentive laws and how they were important in the development of my own artistic life. How these culture incentive laws allowed me to develop a play, and later to develop a group theater, and later to continue presenting this play, and to receive a prize. Because to put a play on the stage is a lot of money. To do any kind of art is a lot of money. And it's very difficult to put all the responsibility of the production of art into the lap of the artists. I believe that the state must be involved in the production of art. And that's what I want to share with you our experience in Brazil about culture incentive laws. So I'm very glad to meet my friends that I recently met in Accra. It's a very auspicious morning, and as I was greeted in Accra, Akwaba, I don't know if my pronunciation is perfect, but it's Akwaba, so it's welcome to Brazil. In this morning, we have here my friend, Yuri Ercolani. He is, so without any further ado, I will start with my friend Yuri. Yuri is a historian with a master's in history from Federal University of Goiás in 2020, focusing on Paul Ricoeur and cultural heritage. Since 2019, he worked at the State Secretariat of Culture on heritage preservation. Currently, he is a doctoral student on history and fiction in Érico Verissimo's work. He is an experienced teacher too, my friend, my former student, and he is about to be a father. So Yuri, it's with you now. Any kind of support that you need, I'll be with you. So Yuri,
Thank you, my friend. I need to thank you, Gustavo, for this opportunity to meet so many people of distant countries, and thank you for this conversation we will have here. If you don't understand my English, you could interrupt me, and Gustavo will help me, and you'll be in a conversation, okay? So, my name is Yuri Ercolani Moraes. I'm born in a south state of Brazil, in a state called Rio Grande do Sul, the big river of the south. But I'm living in Goiânia, a city in the center of Brazil, capital of Goiás state. I'm graduating in history, and at the moment, I'm research history of Brazilian literature. Author called Érico Verissimo. This guy writes about Brazilian history in his fiction. That's very good. Also, I have been working with politics of culture in the government of Goiás 6 years. So I have a little knowledge of that. In this time, I work with preservation of culture heritage. In Brazil, we have some preservation laws. If something is important, historical, artistical, or cultural, these laws provide protection and makes difficult the undoing of these objects. Here we speak of houses, churches, museums, cities, paintings, craftsmanship, etc. So these laws of preservation provides protection to these objects. These laws are very old in Brazil. Elas remontam. How can I say it?
They're from?
They're from 1930. We have a dictatorship in Brazil, Getúlio Vargas. This guy was interested in history of Brazil, and Brazil was discovered by ourselves. We needed to invent our history because, how you know, we are a colonized country, you know? So we have to write our history. And these laws of preservation came in this situation of write a history of this country. So I work with that, with these laws of preservation. But at the moment, I'm working with incentive laws. And what is that? In Brazil, we have some laws of incentive to culture and art. okay? These laws guarantee sources for groups, artists, cultural spaces, museums, and groups of dance, etc., for producers of culture and art. That's very important because generates value and impact very large in economic locals. These policies is very important in Brazilian economics today. And how works that? We publish in an official journal a competition notice with rules. The interest people send propositions of projects in several areas of art and culture, history, literature, theater, circus, dance, music, etc. Some competition notices have specific attentions to circulation and exchange. So the law have an eye to circulations in many cities. So the Gustavo's group of theater, the interest of the state in the Gustavo's group of theater is their circulation in many Brazilian cities and countries too. And the projects are evaluated of commissions or culture councils. The better projects win and are qualified to receive the sources for realization of event or culture actions. So that's a kind of competition, okay? And the better projects have the right to receive the money. So in general terms, we have two types of incentive laws in Brazil. The first one is an indirect incentive law. It means that the government grants a right to projects capture money with companies and businessmen. In return, these companies wins a fiscal benefit. So the artists go on a state and offers a cultural projects, and the state autoriza,
Grant?
provides the right to negotiate. The artist negotiates with companies and businessmen. And if this businessman provide the sources for the project, they receive in return fiscal benefit. So that is the interest. They want that. The businessmen want that.
So Yuri, just to clarify a little bit, so instead of the businessmen and the companies, instead of them paying their taxes directly to the government, they will use that tax money to pay the artists that were granted a prize. It's like a certificate that you can show to the companies, and the companies, instead of paying to the bank, paying to the government, are going to pay directly to the artists, the production of that work of art. Is that correct? So instead
Perfect.
of instead of using the money to pay those taxes, because there are so many different taxes for companies, and okay, please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, perfect. That's and thank you for that. So that law of indirect incentive we call Rouanet. Rouanet was a very important manager of public policies of culture, and the nickname of law honors him. Okay. But we have a second kind of incentive law. It means that a direct incentive law. So in this case, the government will approve the projects and put the money in the project in a direct way. So that's the second one, a direct incentive law. It means that the approved projects receive the money for realization of the event or cultural action. It was worth highlighting some things. The approved and realized projects have some obligations, like present accounts, after execution, and provides a social counterpart. That's an interest thing. The example, Gustavo's approved a book in an incentive law, and he produced his book, and now he sell this book. But he will provide a social counterpart for the Brazilian government, like a presentation free in schools, like teaching English for children of public schools, and provide donations, enfim, etc. That's we call a social counterpart. Also, important to highlight the importance of these laws in Brazil economics. Some studies say the creative economic, the economy of future, is at 3% of Brazilian PIB. How can I say PIB?
The internal, just a moment.
That's a concept, economics. But the
Gross domestic product, GDP. It's
the
all the
important-
money that we have in the country, you know.
Yes. The importance of culture in economy is present in the statistics of Brazilian economy, okay? We see that because provide many jobs and people live with it. These laws guarantee the production of art and culture in Brazil and create many jobs. Recently, the incentive laws are executed for federal government, Brazilian government, states governments, like here, we are in Goiás, and Goiás executed incentive laws, and municipal governments too, in the cities. And we call that in Brazilian federative system a culture system, because we have this process of fomenting a culture and art in execution in 3 spheres of power, in 3 spheres of Brazilian Federation. So in small cities, we are incentivizing art and culture, and the big cities too. And the states and
The whole
these-
federation.
what?
And in the whole federation too.
Yes, in the whole federation. So we have these competitions. Competition is not a perfect word for that, but I think we will understand. We have this competition in 3 levels. So in the cities, small and big, in the states, and in the federal level. So big competitions. Yes. I think it's that. We have these 2 kind of, basically, we have 2 kind of incentive laws. The first one is the indirect incentive. We use the power of the businessmen and campaigns for founding projects of art and culture. In other way, we have the direct founding, incentive laws of incentive. In this kind, the government put the money directly for the artists. So 2 kind of that law. Of course, we have more laws, the incentive of culture, but these 2 kinds are present in all of that. Okay, and my friends, I hope you understand my poor English. Okay, and I thank you for the paciência, patience, okay? And I'm sorry for my poor English. I hope you understand what I talk here. If you don't understand, you talk me, because I can't speak in Portuguese and Gustavo translate for me, okay?
I thank you, Yuri, for your explanation, and I'm quite sure that it was very well understood. Yuri, I would like to continue with you, but now in a more like a conversation between you and me, and I would like to ask you some questions. And before, I will open for questions from the audience. So, Yuri, could you explain for us a little bit about the notion of what is a captator? Because this figure will be very important in cultural incentive laws, especially this national one called Lei Rouanet. And it's not any person that can go to the company and get the money. It must be a specific kind of work. Can you explain for us what does it mean to be a captator, and what is the function in the culture production in Brazil?
Yes. So with these laws, we have how can I say mercado in this concept of economics?
Market. Yes, market.
We have this market, economic markets. So will surge many functions and professionals. These people work with that. So we have a example, a guy who writes projects. He understands of the law. He knows to write the project, and he approves in the state, in the municipal. In these competitions, okay, he is a specialist in that. And the captor is a guy who will mediate the relationship with the artist and the businessman. They know the businessmen who have a custom to founding artists and projects. So he made this work of mediating the relationship with the artists and the campaigns and the businessmen. So that's a figure of a captor, very important in this process. So I think it's good we talk that the market of that exists, a market of people who live working, writing projects and dialogue with authorities and businessmen and artists, mediating that, like a merchant.
So, and I believe, Yuri, that it also creates a culture for some companies that will start financing art. And that's a very good marketing for the companies too, because they become friends of artists. You know, they're using, the companies can see where their taxes, where their tax money is going to. You know, it's indirect fomenting, but it's also a kind of direct fomenting for the artist. The artist gets the money from the companies, not just one company. Usually you need to have some companies, and that's why it's so important to have what we call a captator, captador, a captator, someone who connects the artists with the companies. Well, Yuri, and another thing, and how do we keep the control, you know, of the usage of this money? You know, how we don't fall into a kind of delinquency where people use the money and do not perform their tasks. How we have a kind of control of the usage of this money?
And the artist who receive these sources, he will perform and executed her project, but he will a presentation counts after that. So he own, ele deve,
He owns.
he own a presentation counts of the project for the government after execution. So he have ele tem dever de prestar conta com o que ele fez com o recurso. Ele não pode fazer qualquer coisa com o recurso.
So he has to, in the end, he has to show the accounts and the bills and how the money was used. Otherwise, he cannot run into another, how do you call it?
Isso.
Competition note?
Competition note. Competition note.
So he will be unable to participate again until he finishes his debts with the
Yes.
state.
If he don't a presentation counts, he will be punished. He will be blocked of process. You know, so that in point imposed a seriously thing, because the guy who pick the money and go out, he will be prejudicado,
armed
in all Brazilian systems, not just culture, but fiscal, health, education. The name of this guy will be blocked in Brazilian systems. So he needs to execute the source seriously. Okay.
And Yuri is currently working what we call emergency laws. Can you explain for us what is the function of these emergency laws? How do they work? What's the difference between these emergency incentive laws and the other ones?
Okay. You know, we have a big pandemic, yes, years ago. And this in Brazil was very brutal at the moment. And people was more poor and people needs to help. And the artist class was very prejudiced to that. And then the government approved emergency laws of culture and art. These laws began in help to artists and producers of culture in that moment, because they don't can present it more with public, yes, and so they can't work at that moment, and so government approved these laws, yet these emergency laws, and this provides money for the living of these artists and workers of culture at that moment. And it's very important for the people and the families. No, but the pandemic of COVID was terrible. No, yes, was terrible. But these laws beginning a new moment in Brazil. The producers of art discovery a power, because the people receive the money government for living, and discover that the art was very powerful and impactant in Brazilian economics. So in that moment, we producers of art, the artists, the researchers knew that. They discovered that. So after the pandemics, we fight with the politics to approve a big law called National Politics Aldir Blanc. Aldir Blanc was a great artist in Brazil, compositor, writer, yes. And to foment of culture. We call PNAB. PNAB. And this law has the object of structurar.
Structuring.
Yes, structure the cadeia produtiva.
Production chain.
The production
Chain.
the production chain of culture and art in Brazil. So this law will be executed for 5 years, and will decentralize the money for the cities and the states, and the objects of that after these 5 years, we hope in the future we have a structured chain very strong.
Because, you know, as what Yuri said about this production chain, is that any work of art is related to a huge production chain. And it demands lots of different kinds of jobs. And it generates a lot of money in the whole system. Think about cinema, think about theater, think about producing a book, think about any kind of art. Imagine carnival. Imagine, in our case, you have heard about Brazilian carnival. Even those big carnivals are also fomented with cultural incentive laws. Music festivals, theater festivals, cinema festivals, all these events are produced with cultural incentive laws, directly or indirectly. But none of this strong art and production chain in Brazil, it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have any kind of political of cultural incentive laws. But the cultural incentive laws didn't appear as the government, you know, we are going to help you, well, you artists, we love you, we're going to give you money. No, quite the opposite. It's all part of a big struggle, you know. So I think one of the most important things about these cultural incentive laws is that they came from the artists' demands. You know, the artists organized were able to force the governments to implement this kind of laws. And it's never the opposite. It's never the government providing this kind of action. Is the class, the artistic and productive class, art production class, that usually are responsible for that. That's why I called the artists, because you, the artists, are the ones responsible for bringing this into a reality and to finding your own ways into developing this kind of incentive laws in your own countries. What we are doing here is sharing our examples. Our examples are not perfect, and Yuri.
Yes, no, on the paper, in the theory, that's a very beautiful thing. Yeah, the laws in Brazil on the paper is very beautiful laws, health and economic laws and cultural laws. But the execution is very different. We have many difficult to execute these laws, and some governments approve and like that, but the other governments don't. So the people who live with that has to be always vigilant and asking and struggle for this money. It's not a free, easy thing, you know?
Not at all. If we recently, our previous president, he tried to undermine most of these incentive laws. We took so many steps back in our systems, and we are trying to recover some field that we have lost. We as artists, we have lost so many spaces and so much space in the previous years that we are now getting some momentum back into our tracks. Just one more question that I would like to ask you, Yuri. And how do you think these laws impact the lives of artists?
These laws impacts so much the life of the artists because they provide the sources for the artists produce art. So in Brazil, it's very difficult. We understand this. It's very difficult. The artists live and work with art. So these laws provide them that. With these laws, the artist can live with work and live with this art produced by himself. That's the first one. But I think the best one is the improved to economics numbers. This thing is very important. This money injected in projects, in events, they back to state. They back to government because they movement the local economics. One event, one music concert, they never alone. We have the music concert with public resources, but we have a guy send soda there. We have a guy send food there. So that's a structure, and that is the most important thing, in my opinion, in these laws, because they provide an environment for the business, small business, people who needs job and can job with these events, and this impact the life of these people. I think this the more important thing in the incentive laws is that.
So impact the whole chain of economy, provide artists with a living. So some artists can live from their art. They don't need to work somewhere and then produce art on the weekends. They can live from the art. So this is something very important because you can dedicate your life to what we consider work. But artists in general are not able to live from their own artistic production. So because it's work, it must have foment from the government. Because it's work, it's a right. Access to culture is a right in Brazil. So access to culture, every and all kinds of culture is a right. So the government is responsible for providing that. And how does the government provide that if it doesn't give any kind of incentive? How can the artistic world thrive if we don't have any kind of fomenting from the government? So it's our obligation to keep, as Yuri said, vigilant, because at any moment, some totalitarian governments and conservative governments, they look at culture and they see, well, culture is not so important, so let's extinguish some laws. That's what happened with us. We actually, in the previous government, we lost our culture ministry. It was fused to other ministries, and it lost a lot of its capacity to generate to generate art, to generate projects, and to generate the function it had as a ministry of culture. Well, Yuri, thank you so much for your contribution into this event, into this conversation. And I would like to open to our African friends so that they can participate too. And I would like to listen from your own perspectives on this, and how do you foresee some next steps into bringing these conversations into other levels, you know, because, okay, we are having this conversation here, but can you foresee how how would you take steps towards that direction? But I will open, I don't want to start with questioning you. I will let you ask questions to Yuri, and then I would like to listen to some of your own experiences as well. So we have Abina. I would like to say that I have my Ghanaian name, and my name is Kwabina, Gustavo Kwabina. So
Oh,
please.
hello. It's nice to hear you, Akwabena. Yes, Yuri, thank you so much for your presentation. I think it's brilliant, really. And I was thinking about how it's going to work in the Ghanaian context. You know, in Ghana and in a couple of West African countries, we have something that exists that is called local content. So the government has local content laws or regulations, and basically local content laws are for the promotion and development of local goods, services, and expertise. And they are usually laws that are enacted in particular industries like the oil and gas industry, agriculture, manufacturing, construction, IT. And the thing with local content is that you have to preserve culture, you have to innovate, you have to develop the skills of Ghanaians or the local people. So as you were speaking, you know, culture and then creative art is not very defined. The whole industry, the whole laws around its regulation is not very defined in Ghana. And if we are going to introduce something like cultural incentive laws, it's going to be a big fight, and it's going to be met with some level of resistance at different levels of government. And so I was thinking, if we have existing structures like these local content laws, you know how the definition currently for what is deemed as local or what is cultural in Ghana is just limited to goods and services. Now, if we can advocate to expand this definition to include art, and then once this definition is expanded, automatically these industries or these key sectors or companies in these key sectors are mandated to be able to ensure the preservation of art in a cultural context. And I wanted to pick your mind how it works over there and what you think about this whole setup, because it's really going to be difficult trying to push for new laws, as particularly in our climate and the kind of priorities our people have. If we are able to make them see the other side, capitalize on what they already have, expand definitions and interpretations of things that already exist, maybe we could get somewhere. I don't know. What do you think?
I think we had to pick the positive things to fight, because these laws wouldn't be give to you, you know, the artists in Ghana, in Africa, and Latin America. Latin America doesn't have the same experience we have in Brazil. And so these laws will be happen with the class organization. The artist needs to organize it, this fight, you know, and these pick some good things of that. And I think the good one, because the world, the money moves the world, you know? So I think we need to show the power people that's make value, that's create jobs, and that's make money. So I think that's the way they will be convinced that's a good law and a good experience. And I don't think I answer what you need to me, Abena. But I think this is the way, you know. We need to produce statistics, economic statistics to prove the power people that culture and arts have value and produce money, jobs. I think it's that.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And it's something I think we should turn our attention to. If we are able to provide justification why art should be on the same level as goods and services, or as a thing of commercial value, not just a mode of expression, it's going to help us really lobby for inclusion in these kinds of laws. Thank you very much, Yuri.
Thank you.
You are so mumbly, my friend.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, Yuri, thank you very much. I mean, thank you both. Yuri, I really commend you for your presentation, especially because English is not your first language and this is a complex topic. And please don't apologize. You've done a fantastic job of being understood by us. Yeah, really, really fantastic. Yeah, I feel mind blown about how privileged you guys are to have have these incentive laws. I have two questions. One is how long you've had these laws, and I probably missed. You probably talked about that already because I joined the call late. So sorry if you already said that. So that's my first question: how long these laws have been in place, and secondly. Gustavo, you said access to culture is a right in Brazil. Were you speaking literally or figuratively? I'd like to hear more about that, please. Thanks.
I think the answer is connected. Very, very good questions. Because in Brazil, you have this constitution approved in 1989. So this constitution is called Constituição Cidadã. Translate, please, guys.
Citizen Constitution.
So very, very good things in Brazilian was approved in this document, in this constitution. The right to health, the right to culture, the right to education. These things is approving this test in 1989. So it's very recently, historically, okay? And these laws are very recent too. That's not very old. It's in the 90s. I'm sorry, I read it here.
Lei Rouanet was approved in 1991. And our municipal law was approved in 2000. So it's I don't know about Lei Goiás, it's from the state when it was approved, but
2004.
2004. So the first big one, Lei Rouanet, was 1991, and then we have 2004. We have the Lei Goiás from the state, and in 2000 we have the municipal law from Goiânia in 2000. So everything is very recent, you know. So all these developments, they are not even 30 years old. No, so it's everything is in the beginning. That's why we have so many problems, you know, into making these laws come true and then operating with them and learning how to operate with them. And I have to tell you, my friends, that most Brazilians have absolutely no idea of the existence of these laws, you know? it's still a struggle for us to make it bigger, to make it more popular, you know, to reach more people. It's still a struggle because they solve all the problems in economy. No, they solve all the discrepancies in economy. No, you know, do we see rich artists living in Brazil? Very hardly, but we can grant to some of this class some kind of dignity, you know, some kind of opportunity of bringing their work of art into reality, you know. So think about very small cities, and you have a musician there, or you have these ladies that work with traditional culture, with traditional sculpturing. Hardly they would have the opportunity of exposing their work of art into a big center. But
Yeah.
with these cultural incentive laws, we can bring the periphery into the center, you know, and also bring the center into the periphery. So it's a process of democratization of culture, which is something fundamental.
That's great. Yeah. And what about that right you spoke of? Did you actually mean that literally? Is it a right in Brazil under the
Yes,
law?
it's literally a right. It's a constitutional right.
Oh, that's amazing. And is that an old right?
It's from 1989. It's because
The right itself. Okay.
yes, the right itself, because
Okay.
Brazil was under a dictatorship for more than 20 years.
Right.
All these things, there was a catastrophe, especially for the artistic class. Many artists died, disappeared, and were arrested and tortured. When the dictatorship ends, we passed this new constitution, and in this constitution, the right to culture is a constitutional right. So that's why we continue to have this as a cornerstone of our culture.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Thank you.
I think we can still have at least 2 more questions to Yuri before I
incentive
pass
laws
the
are very
homework.
recently, but the preservation laws from the 1913, we was in a dictatorship, I tell you, the Getúlio Vargas government, and this guy was interested in Brazilian history because he need to discover a Brazilian identity. So Brazilian history, you know that it's a very crazy history. Yes. So in 1913, we don't know our history. So this government was a dictatorship. They need to invent a Brazilian identity. So they use history and politics of preservation to invent this history, this identity, you know? So we have here a dualidade, and the good use of the politics of culture, and the use is not very good use with the other interests, you know? And art and culture, we know that can be used for this kind of governments. And in Brazil, we have this experience too. But these incentives laws are more recently. And I think they came with the justification of economic things. This is the one thing who provides justification for existence of these laws for our power people, because they in reality they don't like that, you know. But we have a good argument, you know, the money.
Yeah, exactly. It's a win-win, isn't it? That's what is so amazing about the whole system, that it's working as a win-win situation. And I think that's probably the most challenging aspect, because as you said, the government just doesn't do it to help artists. It has to gain something. Everybody has to gain something from it. And I'm trying to imagine how that could be made to work in our environment, for example. I imagine it's not easy, and I don't know how difficult it was to get the system up and running. You said there's still problems. Maybe you can give us, well, I guess you've already spoken about some of the problems. Gustavo, I didn't, because I missed the first 15 minutes, I didn't hear what you said about your own production. I think it was financed this way, right? Is that what it was about?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's all started. My life with incentive laws started here. I was a professor at a college called Scenic Production. And in their conclusion work, when they finish the undergraduation system, they need to produce some kind of artistic scenic thing. Could be a play, could be any kind of thing related to stage. And we took this conclusion work, transformed into a project, and submitted to our municipal incentive law. So it was from university to governmental financing. And then we took the money, executed the project, and 10 years later, the project continues running. And now we are a theater group.
Wow.
And we submit projects to main incentive laws to gather funding, to keep the work running, and to continue presenting our play. So this 10 years of existence is thanks to incentive laws. You know, to keep a play running for 10 years is a lot of money. We wouldn't get the money just people buying tickets. It's impossible, you know, if you people, even if the tickets are expensive, it's impossible to do it. So we need fomenting.
Okay.
I think my friend Pelu, Yuri, Mamle is from Ghana. She's in Accra. Pelu is from Nigeria. Pelu is a journalist, and he is a traveler journalist. And I don't know, he's traveling probably now.
Yes, you're right, Gustavo. I'm traveling. I'm currently in Benin Republic. Yeah, good to be part of this session. I'm glad that you were able to host it. It's a beautiful thing listening to Yuri speak about incentive laws, and you also support it with your own comments. It just feels like you guys are living in the future, so to speak, because no matter what has happened, you've been able to get something going. You already have these incentive laws working, you know, for a fraction of the creative people, even if it's not like what it ought to be. But you already have something that's already working. And like Abena said, there are laws in some parts of Africa, you know, she talks about local content. I think we also have something like that. We have copyright laws. We have some sort of laws meant for the creative sector. I think what has happened is that they've not been acted upon. So these laws just exist, but they are not being, you know, it's one thing to have a law. It's another thing to implement the laws. So I think what we are suffering are having laws that don't work. And I think the creative people as well don't also realize that we need to fight. You know, we need to fight for these things to be implemented. And to come to you with a Nigerian example, and I remember our conversations in Accra, where you said we should not feel less powerful than the politicians. As creative people, we also have almost like equal power or even superior power to them. We should have their phone numbers on our phone. We should be able to call an MP, a politician, to say this is what is happening, and have a conversation with them. You know, but I think that is the level we need to get to for the creative industry to actually step up and demand that things should be done. There shouldn't be laws for the sake of just passing laws. There should be, you know, action. You said something about the Ministry of Tourism Ministry of Culture in Brazil being kind of cancelled and maybe being, you know,
was fused
under
tourism and
under. So I mean, yeah, I would imagine that for a country like Brazil, who has done this sort of thing for which has, cultural incentive laws, why would they scrap a Ministry of Culture? In Nigeria, we face the same things. In the past administration, before the current one, we had 8 years when we didn't have a culture and tourism ministry. It was just cancelled and placed under information. Okay, but now it's back. And I think that we are trying to make something of it because we now have not just the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, we also have it as part of a creative economy. So it's 4 things in one. And I'm hoping that this can be can add a difference to the way culture and cultural issues are handled. So thank you so very much for this session. I've benefited a lot from it. I would hope that some of the things that we've gained from Yuri's presentation will come in handy. But I also want to say that this should not be a one-off talk. I'm hoping that we can have several series of this and we can have more people joining because, when I look at the call, we are just about maybe 18 to 20 people. This is a conversation that should be ongoing. It is a conversation that we should encourage people to have, with people, with your people in Brazil sharing experiences. We could also find other countries where similar things have been done and they have succeeded and encourage African people to join in those sessions and find a way to talk around all of these things so that we can move ahead and try to fight for these things to be implemented in our respective countries. So I would say this should not be a one-off. There should be an opportunity to do, the same thing over and over again over time. And then, who knows, maybe at a future PEJA event, we could have a physical session, talking about incentive laws in Africa.
Fantastic.
Well done. Thank you.
Man, that's so beautiful. But since the beginning of this event, the plan was to have at least 2 more. The next event, so every month we are going to have one. So we're going to have one in January and another one in February, and maybe we can continue to have. The next one, I'm inviting my friends that live from incentive laws. People that produce festivals, plays, and so many other things, people that live from it, and how they can have, healthy, a fruitful life via incentive laws. Remember that first of all, it's not easy to write a project. It's not easy to think about an artistic thing or an artistic object beforehand. You have to imagine all the phases and steps necessary for the development and execution of that project. So it's also a process of self-education in how you transform your ideas into real objects of art. So the next meeting will be with these artists that have lots of experience, not just with the legislation, but from living from this legislation, because we have public servants, don't we? The state has public servants, all kinds of jobs and all kinds of people work in the government. Why artists should be outside the state? Why artists should not have access to federal money, state money, and municipal money? Why artists should be outside of the system? So a way to keep artists working together with the government, not for the government, but together with the government, is via culture incentive laws. I think we still have 2 more questions from Anote, and then Martin, you can go, my friend.
Okay. Sorry, there's a question in the message in the text. I think somebody should read it out. Sorry, just to say that there's a message in the chats. A question.
And there will be another meeting, Pelu. So I said there will be 2 more, and there was one with the artists and another one in February with these people that live in complex situations in Brazil and how incentive laws provide some kind of development for these minorities. In Brazil, we have people called quilombola, that were people, enslaved people that ran to very far away places and now can use incentive laws for their own development too. LGBTQ people, and I know this is a serious conversation in Ghana, you have to have an Jesus Christ. my friends and LGBT people, people with some kind of disabilities, blind people, deaf people, people with physical disabilities, all these people enter in culture incentive laws. Sorry, Pelu, I think
Thank you very much. I was just saying that there's a question in the chat, and I think she should do this for Yuri to answer. There was a question there in the chat box. Thank you for the extra
about
answer
the
you gave.
existence of this. I think we should organize ourselves in order to have an email list. So please write your emails here in our chat, so we can continue our conversation via email, and I can share the laws with you. So Anote.
Thank you, Gustavo. Good afternoon from Nigeria. Thank you also to Yuri for the brilliant presentation about the cultural incentive laws. I just, I think 2 days ago, I was discussing this on the platform that Belu also belongs to, where a state in Nigeria is beautifying the city for the Christmas that is coming up in a few weeks. And this was a city that hosted the UNESCO World Book Capital in 2014. Why should merely beautifying the city just for Christmas be their own cultural aim or objective? That couldn't it be more inclusive and more broad-minded, so as to, because since 2014, hardly little book activity, happened. But this was a city that used to host a festival year in, year out for more than 10 years. And then, of course, because of the change in the government and the inability of succeeding governments to understand what culture or book really is, they stopped that festival. But alongside it, whatever gains the UNESCO World Book Capital would have brought to the city also went through the window. So this is a very important conversation that we actually need to have across board, which, like Belu said, we're just about 18 or 20. And I was asking my colleagues, look, why are you guys not on this session listening? If only to learn and be educated more about what we need to do as artists, because we're always good at lamenting, oh, this one is not working, oh, that one is not working. But when we need to be in a room where ideas like this are being, thrown around for us to learn and see how we can engage, so we can adopt them for our own local realities, people are so busy in their own cocoon creating, which is good, of course, but the way we organize ourselves sometimes becomes defeatist. And that is why the politicians seem to have all the say, and we are always lamenting because they would never look our way. But look at what the guys in Brazil have done, even if it's a struggle. Yes, but you have a head start, which is great. So I look forward to the next session, and then start to encourage my colleagues to be more proactive in things like this so we can all benefit and see how we can apply them properly. Thank you so very much.
Fantastic, man. I'm very happy to listen to this kind of thing, that we may together think about the way of developing the lives of artists across the Atlantic. It's not easy in Brazil.
Gustavo, I think we can resume 2 struggles we have to do. The first one is to prove the power for the power.
But this is really nice from outside.
It's not. The first one is to prove that it's the producers of art and culture generates value and create jobs and makes money. That's the first one. The second one is to prove to society the artists are really workers. The art is a job. The society has to understand that. In Brazil, we have just this struggle. The society, the most part of that, don't capture that, don't see the art like a job, you know? So we have to prove them that. That's very important in this struggle.
My dear friend Martin.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yuri, and also Gustavo for this fantastic meeting. I must say I'm happy that it's an offshoot of Peja, so I just thought I should put that in there. But I'm quite a bit, well, from my perspective, I am always very wary of government stuff. You have already mentioned that because there was a change in government, the line of action in terms of interest for creative arts changed. And so that's always a worry. But I fully agree that such laws will only be to the benefit of the artists. I have always thought that the way to go would be to get the businesses interested in creative arts. I don't know if it's harder to get governments interested in creative art than private capital, private businesses interested in creative art. And I was just, I want to find out from you whether in Brazil you do have private grants that are available or accessible for artists to apply for.
Well, I can answer that, Yuri, and you can help me.
Okay.
We do have some private institutions that open this kind of financing, Martin, especially banks, you know, big banks,
companies,
big companies,
energy companies.
Energy companies too. They can provide this kind of call note. Yes. How do you say, Yuri?
The benefit fiscal.
No, yes, but I mean, when they open the document for people to submit projects, it's a kind of call note, but call note is not the best word. We call it edital, which is the document for you to a kind of
competition notice.
Competition notice, you know, all the rules that your project must have to be approved by these companies, but it's not that common, you know. We have Itaú Itaú is an international bank in Brazil that they offer this kind of funding to. I think the previous energy company we had, it also offered some kind of grant, but it's not enough, Martin. But I can let you speak on the issue too.
I think it's that, but I want to talk. It's not free for the businessman. You know, they put money in that because they receive back the fiscal benefit and the publicity free, because when they founding a movie, the logo marca, the image of the enterprise will appear with the movie, you know. So they receive free publicity, you know, and the fiscal benefit. So it's not free. It's not because they like art. In real, they don't like. Yes, but they receive these benefits. So they put money in that. This math in Brazil is very real in our reality. The language of the money, you know?
I don't think it's different in Africa. As far as I'm learning from my fellow friends here from Africa,
Yeah, thank you very much for the answer. I'm also looking forward to the next editions. I'm sure as we go along, our ideas will begin to crystallize as to what action we should take as a body of artists in Ghana. And
that's fantastic. Martin and Mamle are the organizers of the festival that I have just participated, Yuri, in Accra. Well, my friends, so before I wrap this up, first, I would like to thank you for you attending this call. I was very well received in Africa, and I was very well treated, and I had so many good experiences that this event, this conversation here was a way also to keep our conversation going and, strengthening these connections, these links between Africa and Brazil, that we have so many things in common and so many things that are different. Brazilians people have never eaten fufu in their life. And so thank you for being here with us in this morning and afternoon. I'm very glad to meet you again, Amara, Mamle, Pelu, Eric, Martin, and all these people that I have talked to in Accra. I also would like to thank Marcia Pelá, that is my friend. She is the one that was producing this whole event. This is Cultura Cidade Arte, Culture, City, and Art. And it's a non-governmental organization, and she is the one hosting this on YouTube. We are live on YouTube, it's important to say. It's there. I will share the link with you so you can, people that didn't participate can watch it again. Also, there is another producer that is Plano V Eventos, that is from Patricia, my wife, and my school, the Rising Sun English course, that is providing the Zoom platform for us to be here talking about that. So, my friends, thank you so much. I thank Yuri, that is a great friend. I know Yuri since he was 14 years old. We have been friends for a long, long time. He's about to be a father, and we are very glad to have you, Yuri. Thank you, man. He was a bit nervous yesterday. And thank you so much. So, my friends, I think here we reached the end of this call. Again, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope this conversation can become something stronger. I think we need to get momentum. We should not lose this energy. And I hope that in the next meeting, next month, these laws will have already been reached. You would be able to get the laws and our Brazilian laws, and you can study them and see what you can use from them, what you cannot use from them. How do you think this adaptation will work, and so on. So I hope to meet you again here next month. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye. See you, my friends.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.